Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Store Center. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Store Center. His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavindika Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All words devotees, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Just give me a second while I pull up the verse. So we are reading from Yantrad Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7. Wow, Jai. Chapter 1, the Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. We're reading text 10 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yadashishkrishu Pura Atmanam Paro Raja Shrijagatya Eva Pratak Svamayaya Sadvat Satvam Vichitrasu Riram Sur Ishvaraha Shaya Ishyamanastam Tama Yata Asu Yadashishkrishu Puratmanam Paro Raja Srijat Esha Pratak Svamayaya Satvang Vichitrasu Riram Sur Ishvaraha Shai Shamanash Tama Iryadyasasu Yada Sishu Puratmanam Paro Raja Srijatya Esha Prataksvamayaya Sattvam Vichitrasu Riram Sur Ishvaraha Shai Ishamanas Tama Iryatas Asu. Would anybody like to try to say the verse online?
Yada Shrikshu Puraatmana Paro Rajashri Esha Prataksvamaya Sadvam Vichitrashu Viramshu Ishvara Shai Ish Yavanas Ramatrai Yat Yasau.
Thank you. Anyone else? Synonyms. Yada, when. Shushkushu, desiring to create. Puraha, material bodies. Atmanaha, for the living entities. Paraha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Raja, the mode of passion. Srijati, manifest. Esha, he. Pratika, separately, predominantly. Svamanyaya, by his own creative energy. Sattvam, the mode of goodness. Vitri, Vitrirasu, in various types of bodies. Ramsu, desiring to act. Ishvaraha, the personality of Godhead. Syan Ishyamanaha, being about to conclude. Tamaha, the mode of ignorance. Irayate, causes to assume the supreme. Translation of purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different types of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity, according to his character and furtive actions, the Lord receives all the qualities of material nature, sattvagun, rajagun, and tamagun. Then, as the super soul, he enters each body and influences the different qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using sattvagun for maintenance, rajagun for creation, and tamagun for annihilation. Purport. Although material nature is conducted by three qualities, sattvagun, rajagun, and tamagun, nature is not independent. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:10, Madhyakshena Prakriti Suyache Sacharacharam Hetu Anena Kunteya Jagad Vipar Evate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. The different changes in the material world take place as action and reaction of the three gunas. But above the three gunas is their director, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the various types of bodies given to the living entities by material nature, yancha rudanti mayaya, either sattvagun, rajagun, or tamagun is prominent. The body is produced by material nature according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore it is said here, Yad Shishkrushu Pura Atmana Paraha, indicating that the body is certainly created by the Lord. Karmanam Dhaiva Netrena. According to the karma of the living entity, a body is prepared under the Supreme Lord's supervision. Whether the body is of sattvagun, rajagun, or tamagun, everything is done by the direction of the Supreme Lord, through the agency of the external energy. Prakta Mayaya. In this way, in different types of bodies, the Lord, Ishvara, gives directions as Paramatma, and again, to destroy the body, he employs the Tamagun. This is the way the living entities receive different types of bodies. Om Magana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshrumitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadadmayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Translation again. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different types of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity according to his character and fruitive actions, the Lord receives all the qualities of material nature, sattvagun, rajagun, and tamagun. Then, as the Supersoul, he enters each body and influences the qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using sattvagun for maintenance, rajagun for creation, and tamagun for annihilation. Jai. So this is interesting because, let me see if I can pull this up. Okay. So I have a quick confession. I didn't actually prepare for this class in the way of preparing for this verse. And I didn't actually read this verse report because I was going to speak on a different subject matter anyways. But it actually is relatively fitting, which is always a pleasant surprise. So yeah, here we're hearing about the different sort of natures, material nature, but the Rajagun, Tamagun, and Sattvagun, and how Srila Prabhupada is saying here in the purport that each living entity has a prominent nature to them. Whether they're predominated by Sattvagun, Rajagun, or Tamagun. So anyways, I thought to speak a little bit, and we'll see if we can tie it into this purport about a subject that I definitely am struggling with a little bit in general. And I thought if I give class on it, then it will help me realize that this is actually important. And yeah, if you are studying something and then you speak about it or you try and teach other people about it, then you actually realize it more. So that's my intention with this class. So I've been listening to this lecture by Mahatma Das several times, and it's quite an amazing lecture. And most of my class is based on his lecture that he gave. And so hopefully I can able to share some small realizations in between the points that he produces. But it's this lecture on self-care. It's a really important point. And often we hear about this in different classes, and I definitely speak on it often as well. But I'm just trying to realize it more and more. And actually, how this point of self-care he presents, as we know, Mahatma Das does lots of classes specifically, like japa retreat classes and sort of classes that are influenced by like aphorisms and positive ways of thinking. So, anyways, he was speaking this class, and it just because I've been listening to it on repeat over the last couple of days, it's quite interesting how this aspect of self-care actually, if we practice it nicely, then it can have these sort of ripple effects throughout our entire spiritual life. So, anyways, I'll just start. I have like 5 pages of notes, but I'll try and format it in a way where it makes sense. So this aspect of self-care is often sometimes neglected by devotees, especially devotees like myself who are a little newer to Krishna consciousness, because there's this sort of mindset that we should be ready to completely sacrifice ourselves, everything about ourselves. We should be ready to sacrifice and put someone else's needs first. In fact, this is actually, the thought is there because this is the highest form of devotional service, of bhakti, is where we see like the gopis in Vrindavan, they completely put Krishna first, but that's because they see Krishna as like the source of their life. So this is the highest form of like complete ecstasy and bliss. But in order to have that complete ecstasy and bliss, it also requires a very advanced devotee to be able to see that, which I'll speak about later. But sometimes this vision can be sort of perverted in a way and seen as, oh, okay, then because that's the highest goal of life, I'll neglect myself and keep putting other things first. And in this way, it actually doesn't make us spiritually advanced, but we actually can lose um, our our ourself in that process. So that vision of sort of yeah, the first part of this class is just about trying to defeat that mentality that self-care is selfishness. Like I'm being selfish because um, this devotee asked me to do this, and uh, I I said I can't. That's actually selfishness. Whereas maybe there's a reason behind it that's deeper. Um, that yeah is the reason we're saying no. For example, there's this um, sort of see like is it selfish for us to take prasadam at breakfast or at lunch? Like we could be doing service in that time frame. So is it selfish for us to take a break and take prasad, or should we just keep pushing? Um, I remember in Wellington there was one devotee. She was a very expert cook, um, and we would often cook together, and we would cook these huge like for these festivals, or we cook for caterings, and she would just go cooking from we'd start at like right after we finished our chanting at like 7 and just cook till we ran out of steam around or till everything was finished, which was usually around like 5 p.m. And she wouldn't stop and eat, she would just keep going. And all the devotees would be like, please stop and just take prasad. She'd be like, no, I have to finish this, I have to finish this. Um, so this mood is not actually beneficial. It's actually yeah, as we're here later, but it's not selfish to like take prasad, right? That's like a common one. Like, of course, just eat. It's like fueling the body so we can do more. Um, so there's this problem. Yeah, or like in winter, like if it's cold outside, it's not selfish to like get a jacket or to ask your authorities, like, I need a jacket, it's freezing. I'm going on Sankirtan for 8 hours. I'm standing on the street. I need proper shoes so I don't catch a cold. Or I need a jacket like this. No one would criticize someone for asking these things because it's obvious we need it to maintain the body so that we can keep doing service. So one class Prabhupada was giving, and in the class he was speaking, and there was all these devotees, and they were coughing and coughing. So he just asked, like, why is everybody coughing? And then he looked to the temple president, and he's like, why are they coughing? Don't they have jackets? Like, it's cold outside. Don't these devotees, aren't they being taken care of properly? And there's this pastime that Mahabharata was relating in this lecture. Um, this famous pastime was Sanatana Goswami when he was traveling to go see the Lord, and he had been walking through the jungle, and he had been touched by all these poisonous plants. So his body had all these sores on it, and his feet were like bleeding from walking on the hot sand. So by the time he actually came in front of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was covered with sores on his body, and they were oozing like pus, and his feet were bleeding from the blisters breaking on his feet. And because Lord Chaitanya was so in complete ecstasy to see Sanatana Goswami, he embraced his body. And Sanatana Goswami was thinking this is actually a great offense, because for those of us who do deity worship and um, who have services on the altar, we know that when things like come out of the body, it's considered muchi. Um, like anything that comes from the inside out is considered muchi, and should take a shower to cleanse the body. So Lord Sanatana Goswami was thinking, I've committed such a great offense. Lord Chaitanya is touching my body, which is oozing like all these substances. So to get free from this offense that I've created through my body, I'll kill myself. I'll get rid of my body. And Lord Chaitanya, being omniscient, was easily able to understand his mind. And then he checked him and said, this body is not yours to destroy. This body belongs to me. So this pastime is really nice because it highlights this point of self-care, like that um yeah, this body is Krishna's property. So we have to take care of it in order to be able to serve him properly. I remember Hari Chakra saying this to me recently because I was very sleepy and I was feeling embarrassed about it. And he has told me this body is like this body you have to take care of. You have to um, take care of your body properly because it belongs to Krishna, and we act through this body in order to perform devotional service. So if we neglect our body, then we're not able to do service. And then what's the point of that? So um, yeah, so it's actually our duty to take care of our body because it belongs to Krishna. And just like it's basically Krishna's property as soon as we come to devotional service to Krishna consciousness, even before, but we're unable to recognize it before because our consciousness is different. But as soon as we come to Krishna service and we become aware that this body is actually our vessel for executing devotional service, then this body actually belongs to Krishna. Excuse me. And just like if someone were to give you like their laptop to use, or um, like I'm here, I'm using the temple microphone, the temple computer. So I wouldn't just like break it because it's not my property. It belongs to someone else. That would be like really disrespectful to do. So we can understand it in a material point of view, but at least for myself, when I think about it in relationship to my body, I'm like, oh, it's not a big deal. um, so if we're following Srila Prabhupada's principles, because Srila Prabhupada self-care is actually also in relationship to Srila Prabhupada's principles of devotional service. Like Srila Prabhupada in his books, he's always saying we should chant our 16 rounds, follow the regulative principles, we should read the Shastra, we should take advantage of the human form of life. Like this is all throughout the scriptures that we read. And so this is actually like from the self-care perspective, Srila Prabhupada's saying like, take care of yourself, take care of your soul, take care of your spiritual life. Uh, this is all like basically what Srila Prabhupada's saying in his books, that we should take care of ourselves properly. And if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're not actually able to take care of others. This is like a classic point that we hear so often of devotees asking, like, how do I become enthusiastic to distribute books? How do I become enthusiastic in my Krishna consciousness? How do I become enthusiastic to cook? I just don't like cooking. How do I become enthusiastic to do it? So we want to have this sponge consciousness that we, like a sponge, if you squeeze it under, like it's dry and you put it under water, then it absorbs all the water, and then you squeeze it and all the water comes out and it absorbs everything again. So if we give it to ourselves, like if we read the books, then we become enthusiastic to distribute them. If we give Krishna consciousness to ourselves by like chanting our rounds and attending a full morning program and doing devotional service with other devotees who are enthusiastic about devotional service, then naturally we become really enthusiastic in the process of devotional service. So same if we give self-care to ourselves, if we take care of our own self, then naturally we'll be able to give that to other people, be able to take care of devotees properly. So this whole process seems very easy. It's like, okay, great. That's easy. I'll just, take care of myself. I'll just chant 16 rounds. I'll do devotional service. No problem. I've been doing that for so long. Um, or I've been doing that for such a short time, or I'm just starting doing that. But then sometimes it's not. It becomes hard. Like, oh, why is it suddenly hard? What's going on? So Mamadas is pointing out this point that's actually very important, and it can be the thing that completely destroys all of this effort that we do. And so there's this little voice in the head uh, or in the heart that sometimes comes out. I definitely notice it in myself often. That's this little voice, and it says, "I don't care." It's just 3 words. I don't care. So this happens when we're doing something, uh, like just about right before we're about to do something that we shouldn't do, or about to do something that we should do for our Krishna consciousness, and this little voice comes in and says, "I don't care," and then it's like, "Oh, I don't care. Okay, great, no problem. I'll just do it then, or I won't do it." So this voice, I don't care, it's like a thought process or a process of belief. And he's describing how it comes from, I don't care, stems from this belief that I'm not worth it. Because if I'm not worth it, then what's the problem? I don't care. Which is actually this thought, which is actually described more legitimately as self envy, which is defined as not taking advantage of the Shastra definition, not taking advantage of something that is beneficial for yourself is self envy. Envy is described as violence or hatred towards something or someone. This is getting very depressing, but I promise it gets beneficial. It all ties together in the end. Um, so self not taking advantage of something that's beneficial for yourself is considered self envy. Um, and envy in its raw sense is described as violence or hatred towards something or someone. And violence is, in a Krishna conscious perspective, Srila Prabhupada describes violence as interrupting someone's progress of Krishna consciousness. Just like we often hear, there's this one purport, I can't remember where it is, but Srila Prabhupada describes ahimsa and non-ahimsa, and non-ahimsa is, yeah, not giving someone Krishna consciousness. Like if we have bhakti, we have the knowledge of Krishna, we have this knowledge of how to get out of the cycle of birth and death in the material world, and we don't share it with somebody who is struggling with their material life, or just in general, anybody who's not in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed to be struggling. And we don't give them Krishna consciousness is actually performing violence towards them. So in the same way, we can also do that towards ourselves. Um, so like when we get an instruction from the spiritual master, when we get someone tries to help us in some way, and we hear that little voice that's like, oh, I don't care anyway, like I don't care. That's actually violence or self-violence or self-hatred. That's actually hurting our spiritual consciousness. And so Muhammad has described this in another way that made it a little easier to understand, that there's different things that we do in our life, like different things that sometimes we do that we actually really don't like doing. Like they are things that we hate doing. Um, like maybe we don't care about somebody that we should care about enough, or we do something that we just don't like doing, but we just do it anyways, and it's something that we like hated doing, but it just happens. So there's these things that we do um, in our life that we just like, oh, I hate when I do that, or like, I hate, like for me, I hate when I fall asleep in my chanting. It's like so awful. Or falling asleep in, a class. So you're sitting in the class and the person's speaking and you fall asleep. It's like, oh, I hate when I do that. So there's these things that sometimes pile up, and then we become a person that we actually don't like. Like there's this version of myself that I don't like. I hate this person because the things this person does are things that I don't like. So there's that person, and there's also things. There's a person that we love. Like, oh, I love when this happens. When I fall into this category of this person that I love. Like, maybe this person is more regulated. Maybe they, you know, they read often. Maybe their chanting is really awesome, or they're really nice to devotees. So like this, there's this version that's like, well, I really love this version of myself. So if we practice self-care regularly, then naturally we would think, if I actually loved myself, then I wouldn't just say like, oh, that's just how I am. I just have these qualities. That's just me. I can't avoid it. Um, but if we actually loved ourselves, we would think, no, I'm going to actively try to change myself so that I can become this person that I actually love. that I actually like. We wouldn't have that I can't change mentality. So Muhammad Das was saying, I haven't done this yet because I've just been listening to this lecture. I haven't been flying or doing the homework on it in a sense. But he was saying a really good activity to do or workshop or like homework is to write down all these things about this person that we don't like. So we know this is a person I don't want to run towards. I want to run away from this person I hate and run towards this person that I love, at least this person of myself. That's what I'm looking forward to. So, anyways, I haven't done that yet, but I thought it would be a nice activity. So, how is this all related to like chanting? Is it just a thought? Is it just a nice idea? Does it actually have any depth to it? So, he was, he was giving this relationship to how it's relevant to our chanting in this way because he often has been sharing these there's another one of his classes that I was listening to that was a Japa workshop. And he, at the very beginning of the Japa workshop, he said, we're just going to do a self-care workshop because actually, if we take care of ourselves properly, then naturally our Japa will also be better. And he was giving this point how this I don't care mentality is related to our chanting. Like, I don't know if anyone's experienced this chanting, like they call them zombie rounds. It's like worse than robot rounds. Robot rounds are like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, like monotone. Like I'm just gonna get through these as quick as possible. And zombie rounds are like it's like the worst japa you've ever chanted. Where you're like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. It's like when you're chanting so bad, maybe you're so sleepy or you just really are in that I don't care mentality, and things just get really hard and but at any time in that chanting, we can always do something about it. Like stand up, go for a walk, start jumping. Like I was telling the devotees the other day that once we had this festival, this Cuba Dupa festival in Wellington, and we were serving apple prasad there. And me and this other devotee, we didn't get home until 2 in the morning. And it was 2 in the morning, so I was like, man, I'm just gonna wake up in 2 hours and chant my rounds anyways. So I'll just stay up and I'll chant. So I did that. I just stayed up. I kept chanting, and I saw the devotees get up, go to the shower, get ready, like sit down. And I think it got to about like maybe 4 rounds away from finishing, and I was so tired that I couldn't like walking wasn't working because I'd walk and I just fall asleep. I started falling asleep while I was walking. Nothing was working, so I started jumping up and down to try and chant my rounds because I was like, I've only got 4 left. I might as well finish them. But I was so tired and my rounds were getting so sloppy that I had to like start jumping to start keep myself awake. So these are like, zombie rounds. It's not a nice offering to Krishna. And um, this voice, I don't care. We can really feel it. And sometimes if those rounds have ever happened, you just feel like, oh my gosh, I just need to get through these rounds, but they're so sloppy. Um, so this I don't care voice, it's actually our number one enemy in everything. And in order for self-love to work and to change, that voice also needs to change to something positive. Like I do care and I will do something about it. And when we have that mentality, then we can see like how if we're chanting and it's becoming very anonymous and rocky, then and this mentality is coming up like, oh, I don't care, I don't care. You think like, no, I do care and I do want to do something about it, and then we make a change. So, let's see how much time I have. 41. Let's see. Try and summarize what I have left. So this self-love, this self-care, self-compassion is actually a consciousness. And all of us have it to certain degrees when we come into Krishna consciousness, from what we've experienced from before, from our material life. And devotees who are actually very advanced devotees in Krishna consciousness, and I've seen this practically, they're actually very expert in self-care. Why? Because you can see they take so much care to make sure that their sadhana is very focused. They plan time in their day for their reading, They plan time in their day for their chanting. They do it at the time of the day where they're most focused, they're most conscious and aware. Like I've noticed for myself, different times of the day where I'm actually complete, like it's just a completely time of the day that I just can't focus on anything. So devotees who are very advanced, they plan their sadhana at times of the day where they're focused, where they know they're going to be attentive. They do it in places where there's there's no distractions. They don't put themselves in situations where they're going to have to compromise their sadhana. And if you speak to those devotees who are like really advanced in their Krishna consciousness and who really value their sadhana, you can also hear from them that, yeah, they take care of what they eat, they're exercising properly, they do all these things for their benefit so that they can keep being able to practice their Krishna consciousness perfectly. So you can see actually that they're this they're expert in self-care. Because of course the highest form of self-care is to give ourselves sadhana. Um, and when these devotees, when they become aware of some needs that they have, they take the steps to fulfill them because they can see these needs are here. And if I don't fulfill them, they're just going to create a distraction for me in my devotional service. So I'll fulfill them so that I can carry on with my practice. So it's actually very nice to see devotees like this because it's like, oh wow, they're doing it perfectly. This is self-care in its perfection. Um, So yeah, self-care is a consciousness and it manifests emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And if we take care of ourselves physically, like if we look at it from just one point of view, like, okay, we take care of our physical needs, um, or we take care of our emotional and our psychological needs, then naturally will also take care of our spiritual needs. It's like if you're practicing something in one area of your life, then naturally it will overflow and we'll start to practice it also in other areas of our life too. It's like a table. Like my dad often gave me this example. Like we have a table. Like right now we have our Tulsi. I can see our Tulsi Devi, Srimad Tulsi Marani. She's on the table. The table has three legs, but usually tables have four legs. But if we take off one leg, then the table will be unsteady and she'll fall. So just like with our lives, we're like a table and we need to make sure all of our legs are balanced properly. So it's not that we just focus only like, okay, I'll just chant all my rounds and um, I'll read and I'll do devotional service, but I'll neglect every aspect of my life. I'll neglect my eating, I'll neglect my exercise, I'll neglect my physical body. Then we won't be able to make it in the long run. We'll actually get a disease, most likely, and then we'll suffer. So we have to take care of all aspects. And even if we focus, okay, like right now, I just need to take care of my mental, my psychological, my physical well-being, and I'll put effort into that. And I'll just focus on the basics of my devotional service and my Krishna conscious lifestyle. Then naturally, once they're putting effort into that, we'll also put effort into our spiritual life because, um, at least for most of us, there's not really a difference between the two. So this stable mentality is nice. We want to become stable. Um, so this last point, they're really nectar. I don't have much time, but I'll try and summarize them quickly. So if we increase our self-love and our self-care, it can actually protect us from doing the wrong thing, and it'll actually help us to do the right thing. So this self-care is very important. And Muhammad Asprabhu is giving this mantra. He's always got these really nice mantras. So he's giving this mantra that instead of thinking like all these I don't care or trying to think I do care, but it's hard sometimes because the mind, if it's not our friend, it's hard to think positively. So he's giving this mantra like I love myself too much to, and this is actually really useful and it can come up, be very helpful for chanting as well. So he was saying, think of the thing that's like the biggest temptation in our life. The thing that we think, oh man, I hope I don't like get myself into a situation like this because then I don't know if I can become a devotee. Or I don't know if I'm able to get myself out of that if I put myself into this situation. Or maybe it's an obstacle, or maybe it's just something that we eat too much of. And you can think, okay, I love myself too much to do that thing. Like, for example, I love myself too much to go to bed late because I know if I don't get enough sleep, I won't be able to chant in the morning. Or I love myself too much to um, binge watch this Netflix show. Or I love myself too much to eat chocolate. Or I love myself too much to, you know, eat deep fried things every day because I know it will just hurt me in the end. So this mantra is actually the mantra that will save us from this negative mentality. I love myself too much to do this. And this mantra that will destroy us in the sort of psychological sense is I don't care. So these are the two things that he was honing in on this lecture. This I don't care mentality is actually very powerful. It's like the sabotage for our spiritual life and for material life. Um, People who are very deep in the mode of ignorance in the material world most likely think this quite often about themselves. So he was giving this sort of tier of how it all comes. So I don't care actually stems from this thought of who cares about me anyways. And then who cares about me comes from, well, Krishna doesn't care about me because I'm a rascal. And Krishna probably doesn't like rascals. And of course this isn't true. It isn't true at all, actually. Because we think that at the heart of this I don't care is, yeah, Krishna doesn't care. And then we bring this down through like mental beliefs. Like there's this belief system of things we believe about ourselves that aren't actually true. Of course, all the devotees online are much more senior to me, so you probably don't struggle with this, but for some of us, this is in the heart. Um, so at the heart of I don't care is Krishna doesn't care. And then we bring this through to, well, if Krishna doesn't care, then my guru doesn't care about me. And if my guru doesn't care about me, then the temple presidents, they don't care about me. The management, they don't care about me. And then the devotees, they don't care about me either. And of course, this isn't true. This is just a belief which is, yeah, it's not real. It's completely not real. Because Prabhupada does care. Um, he cares so much that he has written all of these books. He cares so much that he's opened all these preaching centers. He's made so many disciples just because he cares so much about the people that he left Vrindavan Dham and he came to the West to try and give Krishna consciousness to people because he cares so much. And Krishna cares. Krishna, cares unlimitedly. He is the super soul in the heart, and he's been with us for all of our millions of births that we've taken. Even when we were pigs eating stool, he was still in our heart. And and he cares about his devotees. He wants them to come back to him more than we want to come back to him. And you might think, but I'm such a rascal. Krishna won't like me because I'm such a rascal. But Lord Nityananda loved Jagai and Madai, and they were like the supreme rascals. So guaranteed we're not that bad. And Krishna loves rascals. And even if we think, no, surely not, it's not actually up to us. It's his decision to love us, not ours decision. So in order to have a successful spiritual life, we need to have a healthy amount of self-care. Just like we all know devotee care in ISKCON is very big. So everyone's pushing devotee care, this, devotee care, that. Um, His Holiness, or not His Holiness, Radha Gopinath Prabhu from, uh, mm, I can't remember where the name of the place is, Eco Village in India. He travels around the world with another devotee and they teach devotee care workshops. I went to one in New Zealand, and you can become a devotee care. You can get a certificate that says you've done this workshop, and now you're qualified to care for devotees. Um, but even if you have this workshop, if you have this certificate and you don't care for yourself, you're actually not qualified to care for devotees because how can you give to people what you don't have? So so it's a powerful point. And just summarize. So yeah, um, these things are very important to practice because we want to have positive self-care. And sometimes I'll just finish up here. So yeah, And the highest form of self-care, of course, is sadhana, giving ourselves Krishna consciousness, um, because that aims at not only the like in sort of a material sense, we can practice self-care and you can take care of the body. You might certain people need different things to maintain themselves, like how Srila Prabhupada says, eat just enough and sleep just enough just to maintain the body and the self together. So for some people, sleep is just 2 hours. That's all they need. And so some people eat is just a few fruits just to keep the body and soul together. But for others, if they do that, they'll just go completely mental and they won't be able to practice peacefully. So they need to sleep 8 hours. They need to eat more. And that's different for different people. We can't expect that our needs are going to be the same as others. So on a material point perspective, there's that. Or, you can go to the spa, maybe you need to get a massage to relax the body. The muscles are too stiff. You need to do exercise, yoga like this, do some meditation. And then on the spiritual point of view, the highest is actually to give ourselves Krishna consciousness. So to give ourselves sadhana, hearing and chanting. So this lecture, there's so much more to share. I have 2 more pages, but because we're running short on time, I'll just end it there. And we've accumulated a physical audience. So I'll ask if you guys have any questions, comments, corrections. Kalashur. You have to speak loud.
Okay. Very enough thought. Of course, self-care extremely important. It's easy to see, like, we're talking about things like eating, sleeping, exercise. Because we have seen in our movement that, people who didn't necessarily do those things when they were younger, now have more health problems. Now that they're seniors, really. But when it comes to, as we call it, psychological or mental self-care, I've seen the phenomenon where sometimes people say, like, oh, well, I just need to zone out for a little bit, or, my psychological needs, and I'm going to watch TV. Well, of course, I understand it's very difficult for if you're watching TV. And even more so, sometimes this mentality goes even further. Like, I need to be in a certain type of relationship for my psychological needs and things like that. So where's kind of the line?
Where do you draw that line, Ham?
Yeah.
Alistair Prabhu is asking, just for those on Zoom who couldn't hear, is that, well, where do we draw the line with when some people say, like, oh, for my, like, I need to watch a movie, or I need to zone out a little bit because I've been so stressed and now I need to watch something to take my mind off everything, or I need to be in a certain relationship because I can only be with a person like this. And that's what I need. I need someone like this. So yeah, so where do we draw the line and sort of that realm? I guess it's hard to say because I can't speak on behalf of other people's needs, but I can definitely say that it's always good to take guidance from other devotees, like from seniors and in that area. Like if we think, okay, I just need to like space out and I need to watch a movie tonight in order to feel relaxed and feel calm. And then if we have a mentor and if we think, okay, what if I ask my mentor, what do you think they would say? And if it's like, oh, I don't want to ask them because it's probably not right, then most of the chances that that's probably not the best way that we could heal ourselves. Um, if there's like a feeling of not wanting to share this with other people because we kind of feel like it's inherently not the best thing for us, then probably that means that after we do that, we probably won't actually feel that much better. Um, I can say, yeah, for myself, definitely. Like I've thought, okay, I'll just space out for an hour on YouTube, or I'll watch this and then I'll feel better afterwards. And then pretty much 95% of the time, you actually feel worse than you did in the beginning. Um, or you feel worse later because you're like, oh, now I'm only thinking about is this, and I can't think of Krishna. So yeah, like that, we can kind of catch our own selves in that way. Um, yeah, in terms of people who think they need a certain partner in order to be happy and satisfied, um, most of the time there's some genuineness in that. People do need certain things, but thinking that a person is going to be able to satisfy all of your needs is illusion. Person is not, that's not their role within their life. Um, they're, yeah, and to think that this person is here to satisfy my needs is actually not very beneficial for your devotional service or theirs. And it might take you a really long time to find such a person. Srimati Tulsi Rani Ki Jai. Is that okay? Okay. Any questions on Zoom? Targa, Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your class. I am thinking about some of the pitfalls of the issue of self-care, because there are concerns. I can speak both anecdotally from my own experience and also the basis of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. There are certainly, we have to take care of our body. That's our responsibility. It's not anybody else's responsibility, and we have to take responsibility for those things that have been entrusted to us. It's Krishna's property. We have to take care of our body. It's the facility through which we are rendering devotional service, gift from Krishna. So we have to honor that gift and utilize it nicely in devotional service. But the general principle is that we want to try to minimize the demands of the body. Sleeping, eating, all these things gradually we want to try to reduce, not artificially, but naturally as we progress in devotional service. If we are practicing Krishna consciousness properly, one of the results will be that we require less sleep, we require less to eat. Generally, everybody eats far more than they actually require. The tongue demands gratification, but what we actually need is significantly less. The need for sleep increases with the amount of sense gratification in our life. By sense gratification, we deplete the body's energy. We're really short of time. There's a lot to discuss here, but I just wanted to touch on the point that sometimes self-care becomes an excuse for neglecting devotional service. And that's a very common type of pitfall. Usually, we don't really have to make a great endeavor to take care of ourselves. Our natural inclination is to do those things. And what is important to understand is that the prime necessity is devotional service. Our sadhana, of course, and to please Krishna by pleasing his representative, the spiritual master. And doing that sometimes requires sacrifices. Sometimes it becomes necessary to neglect what we think is our need in order to achieve the prime objective, which is to please the spiritual master, to please Krishna by pleasing his representative. Sometimes we have to neglect those things that we think are important to us. And I can speak from personal experience that, in the association of Srila Prabhupada, no one would think that if Srila Prabhupada requested us to do this or that we would respond by saying, well, I'm sorry, Srila Prabhupada, I can't do that because I need to do this or that. I need to take care of myself in this way or that way. that kind of mentality was out of the question at the time. It was every day was an emergency. We were trying to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. We were trying to establish temples and trying to make devotees, trying to get books distributed, trying to assist Srila Prabhupada in his mission. Um, with the little time that he had. Srila Prabhupada knew that his time was short. We all knew that he was quite old and wouldn't be with us for very long. If Srila Prabhupada needed something, if he wanted something, it was critical that, whatever was required, we had to do that. Even if it meant that sometimes we had to neglect our bodily needs or whatever the needs might have been, because there was a higher purpose that needed to be served, and it was very, very critical. Um, when I was serving directly under Srila Prabhupada, I sometimes had to go for many days with no sleep whatsoever, days on end without ever sleeping, and sometimes even without eating for days, just because the circumstances were such that there was no alternative. There was just no alternative. There were things that just absolutely had to be done. And so it would have been Maya to say no. It would have been serious Maya, and it would have created tremendous problems for Srila Prabhupada and for others. Every individual, their service was critical to the overall operation. There were so few of us. I can remember times in Mayapur, there was just a handful of devotees in all of Mayapur, um, trying to take care of Srila Prabhupada, trying to take care of the cows, trying to take care of the deities, taking care of the temple, dealing with the endless stream of guests coming to see Srila Prabhupada, trying to keep everything going with just an absolute skeleton crew. Um, Someone had to be guarding Srila Prabhupada's room. Nobody wanted to do the night shift. It was divided into three shifts during the night. No one would do it. So I had to do it. I did the three shifts all through the night. Then I had to take care of the cows during the day, and there was no time to sleep. It was around the clock. But um, Krishna empowered us to do those things that are ordinarily impossible or difficult to become possible. When we surrender in devotional service, we become empowered to do even the impossible. Um, and anyway, it's important to understand that sometimes our needs do not come first. Sometimes there are more important things, and we have to recognize that fact and do the necessary. The needs of the spiritual master, the instructions of the spiritual master, his desire supersedes everything else. Um, um, I think that, if we found ourselves in Goloka Vrindavan and Srimati Radharani came to us and said, I need you to make this garland for Krishna right away, and my I have not eaten or slept in a very long time. Who would say no to Srimati Radharani? Um, who would say no under the circumstances? There are times when it's just inappropriate to say no. It's absolutely Maya, regardless of what our bodily needs might be, or what we perceive to be our personal needs. What happens is that um, we sometimes become preoccupied with doing the things that we need to do in order to ensure that we are fit for devotional service. But we do that to the extent that when the actual service comes, we neglect the service for the sake of ensuring that we are fit to do the service. So that becomes ludicrous, right? The idea is that I understand that the prime necessity is devotional service. So therefore, I want to make sure that I'm fit to do devotional service, both spiritually and physically, bodily. But if then when the devotional service comes, the opportunity to render devotional service comes, I say, no, I'm not going to do that service because I have to make sure that I'm fit for doing service. That's ridiculous. It's ludicrous. But that happens. Devotees will do that. They'll say, sorry, Prabhu, I can't do this service because I got to take care of myself. Um, it's we have learned in ISKCON to advise devotees to take care of themselves because we had experience in the past that managers sometimes would push devotees to do more than what was reasonable and unnecessarily. And not because they were inconsiderate, but because sometimes they just were not aware of the particular circumstances of the individual. And so it becomes the responsibility of every individual devotee to look after themselves and to make sure that their authorities are aware of their circumstances, because they're not necessarily omniscient. Um, so you have to keep them informed. Um, but Srila Prabhupada's general rule was that we should always remain submissive to our authorities. Not that, I refuse to do this service because I have to take care of myself and I need to do this or that right now. I need to maintain my schedule, and my schedule dictates that I must do this particular thing at this time. And Srila Prabhupada would not hold still for that. He just wouldn't allow devotees to try to do something like that. He would expect his disciples to cooperate with his requests, and also those who represent him, temple presidents and GVCs and so on, or even the temple commander. He would expect us to cooperate. If there is some problem, some difficulty that arises from surrendering to some particular instruction, then there is an appropriate process for addressing that. But the appropriate process does not involve flatly refusing to do a service. You cooperate, you do the service, and then afterwards you can discuss how that was a problem, and maybe there's a better way we can do this. Some discussion can take place. But when there's a necessity for something important to happen, Srila Prabhupada needs us to cooperate, or everything becomes, in Srila Prabhupada's words, everything becomes topsy-turvy. Important things don't get done. And the mission fails. Every individual and every service is important to the overall mission. And sometimes the mission requires that we have to be self-sacrificing. That's just the reality of the war that we're engaged in. We're battling against Maya, and things can't always be ideal. In an ideal world, there's plenty of time for us to do all the things that we'd like to do or that we think that we need to do, and there's lots of individuals who take care of all the services that need to get done. And if I don't do it, somebody else will do it. But things are not ideal. It's just not an ideal situation. Material world is very difficult, and we have to be prepared to do the necessary. Srila Prabhupada used to repeat this all the time to his disciples: do the necessary. And sometimes the necessary is to take care of ourselves, but sometimes the necessary means sacrificing ourselves, neglecting something, because there's something more important that needs to be done at a particular time. And it requires my surrender. If I don't do it, it's not going to happen. surely, if there are other people available and they have, time and energy, then, arrangements can be made for someone else to cover a particular service, but sometimes that's not the case. And it requires that, we have to be prepared to make sacrifices. Um, anyway, I have lots of experience of times when there were so few devotees and so much that needed to be done. And we just simply had to sacrifice so many things. And there was no alternative. It was, just out of the question. We couldn't neglect important services to the deities, to Srila Prabhupada. Um, so that there's a balance that has to be struck. And we have to be thoughtful, but prepared to make sacrifices sometimes. I've gone over time, and I apologize, but I think it's an important point. Um, um, we have to keep all these things in perspective. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Bhagavatam Translation You want to sing that, Rajan?
Yes, I'm loving now. Vishwamati Nandana Rajokara Jaya Gokula Ranjana Panay. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopalokana Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki
Jai.
Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki
Jai.
Mayapur Dham Ki
Jai.
Ganges Mai Ki Jamuna Mai Ki
Jai.
Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Devi Ki
Jai.
Shri Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yaki Ki Samadeva Bhaktivinoda Ki Nitai Gaur Nandi. Oh, gloriousissimo devotees. Oh, gloriousissimo devotees. Oh, gloriousissimo devotees. Oh, glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Oh, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Great honor.